lo and behold, who comes into the room storming in? Daddy's Little Billionaire. And he's like yelling at us because I think it was Dax and Cash and Wheeler didn't want to come in. They didn't like the storyline, so they refused to come to TV that day. And he was like, listen, I'll put you in a 6-man 6 minutes before the show and you're going to do it. And we're all just like, all feeling disrespected. And I still to this day wish I would have stood up and said, you know, a lot of things. But like, you just told Sting that you're going to put him in a 6-man in 6 minutes, but then you're going to honor him for his retirement.
Hey guys, we back in the locker room. We got Jake Hager, who went in on Tony Khan, how he runs AEW and FTR. Look into more at the locker room.
I'm tired of being humble. I'm tired of letting people think they got a chance. The tribal chief is head and shoulders above everybody.
Hey guys, we back at Toss Ring Scandal, aka KDH, the Turnbuckle King, the building. We will talk about Jake Hager and so's Tony Khan at FTR. Of course, guys, get the likes as we come to the locker room. And as usual, we about to air some dirty laundry. We know Jake Hager, formerly of AEW, and formerly Jack Swagger in WWE, and also formerly in MMA. He recently did an interview with Chris Van Fleet where he discusses why he's not wrestling anymore. He's officially retired. His time in WWE, and it's also his most recent, his time in AEW, All Elite Wrestling. He talks about Tony Khan and how he ran his organization, how he disagreed with stuff the way Tony did, and how he said that Tony Khan was not a fan of him. But it's crazy, though. And he also later on talks about the tag team FTR, formerly known as the Revival in WWE. But Jake Hager, he been saying what a lot of people have been saying after they leave AEW. Now, if you notice, guys, that when people, after they are out of an AEW contract, they're pretty much released from shackles of Tony Khan. They go in on how Tony Khan really is and how he treated them or mistreated them, and how he runs the company, because AEW's been out since 2019, and some of these wrestlers are disgruntled, whether they're mid-carders or they're former main event or a lower card or catering, no matter what they were, they tend to have a pattern saying that Tony Khan, has his ways of how he treats the employees. Let's see what Jake Hager had to say here.
And where I first said, I like this hat. And the crowd just popped. And once he heard that pop, that's all he needed to know.
He is fighting for his life in that promo to not break character. he's looking at the camera like.
Well, I do have a way with words. I will, give me some credit. But dude, I had so much fun.
Yeah, you got that purple hat over.
You know what's cool is like I'm an undefeated MMA fighter, but like my wrestling character at AEW was almost kind of comical. I feel.
Yeah, you were a little goofy.
Yeah, and I was allowed to be goofy because like Chris would always like put me into situations where I could look tough again, but like I could be funny. And if you know me, that's my real personality. I like to fuck around, bullshit, and drink scotch.
So when did you stop loving what you were doing there? Or just loving wrestling in general?
It was right after we did the Vegas, was that the Stadium Stampede? No, it was like the second Blood and Guts. The second Blood and Guts we did in Vegas, and it was against Daniel Bryan and Cesaro and those guys, and then Sammy jumped off the cage. My first contract with AEW was up. And after that, we were like the negotiation process was very one way, and I could tell that. Well, anyways, I always find a way to say this every day, so I think everyone should too. Say fuck Tony Khan.
So there, he said F Tony Khan. He did not like how Tony Khan treated him. Now he talks about how after his first contract with AEW was up, that he felt that he should have been treated better after the Stampede, getting AEW from the ground, and he believes he was a part of some of the people in AEW, helped to get the company over, helped get his name, AEW being on TBS and TNT and everything else. And he just don't like how Tony Khan treated him and how he treated the boys in the back in the locker room as well. Now, we'll soon get to what the FTR, what he had to say about them. But Jake Hager, he's saying what a lot of people are saying about Tony Khan. Tony Khan is, he has his favorites. And if you're not one of his favorites, he will bench you. He will not do much with you. Now, I know some people may be saying, they don't like what Tony Khan has to do. But I will say that one part he did say is true. Tony Khan is unprofessional. Now, Tony Khan recently at the Forbidden Door pay-per-view, that was the same night as NXT Heatwave, he spoke about how he made changes to the Gauntlet Casino contract match where you could cash in, become a world champion. But we'll see what he had to say here, then we'll get back to the rest of the interview.
Here as fans, but if you would lend me your honest opinions, I don't want you to BS me. I want to hear what you really think. I want fan feedback. Do you think for a company that takes pride in its champions, that takes pride in the sport of pro wrestling, I really care about the integrity of the promotion and the championships. Do you think that the way MJF has conducted himself in recent weeks at trying to verbally execute and then renege on an execute, I don't think that's how a championship challenger or somebody who has been potentially could be a great champion should conduct himself. I don't think that's in the spirit of the contract executions. How do you feel? Do you agree with that?
Let's strip him of it.
Oh.
No?
Oh.
Sorry.
What do you think?
Trying to contribute.
What do you think? I don't think that's in the spirit of the sport. I would be interested to hear feedback. Is there anybody that yes, what do you think? I think you think I should?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah? Well, here's what I think. I think that I want AEW to be different, and I've been listening to the feedback and the voice of the fans, and I think people want the championships and the sport of pro wrestling to have integrity. We're having the best year in the history of AEW, and I think a lot of it is that we're willing to listen to the fans, that we care about the sport, and we want the fans to believe in what we're doing. I think it's really important that when we have a contract execution and the integrity of the championship, that we can maintain the dignity of the sport. I also think it's very, very important to promote championship matches. I don't want to have a big ticket championship match that we are unable to advertise. And also, I don't really want to necessarily utilize a stipulation here that's being utilized other places. I'm not trying to duplicate what other people is doing. I really believe we are our own promotion. That's why going forward, I want to set the tone that from now on, I think the right thing to do is all contract execution should be on at least a week's notice so we can properly promote the matches, so that we can properly give the fans notice and have the integrity of a championship match. And I think it's for the best for us. I think it's for the best for our media partners and for the integrity of the championship, if that makes sense.
I, for one, say that don't make any sense. Now, you have a casino gauntlet where people went through to earn a championship match. Why do you have to book it a week in advance at least? He's talking about for promotional purposes, but Tony Khan, you don't even know how to promote properly in AEW at all. Mark Henry actually said that a while back, so I think that's a bad idea. I understand you want to be different from other companies like WWE, mainly in TNA, but I would say to make changes to the match, my idea, I would say instead of just giving a week's notice, I would say that you can't cash in the middle of a match. You can't do it if it's already a triple threat or a four-way, only one-on-one. Something like that of that nature. But I don't agree with that because that kind of, destroys the whole purpose of the contract in the first place. And it kind of, makes sure that it only makes sense to even have it at that point. But let's get to the rest of what Jake Hager had to say in his interview. Now he's going to talk about FTR.
I could tell that he didn't want me there. He offered me like a year and a half. I was like, bro, I just did Stadium Stampede twice. Like, don't act like Stadium Stampede didn't put AEW on the map. I was in the debut episode. I was the big spoiler, and you offer me 18 months after all that. So it was that and the way that he started running the business that it really, like, he wasn't a professional. Like, after all the Punk shit that went down, the boys got together and we had a meeting, and this was the boys only, no office. All right. And we're all like Sting's in there, Show, Jericho, Brian, Mox, they're all standing at the front, kind of like talking us through this shit. And lo and behold, who comes into the room storming in? Daddy's Little Billionaire. And he's like yelling at us because I think it was Dax and Cash and Wheeler didn't want to come in. They didn't like the storyline, so they refused to come to TV that day. And he was like, listen, I'll put you in a 6-man 6 minutes before the show, and you're going to do it.
Actually, Dax Harwood responded to what Jake Hager had to say. He said, Cash and I were at the all-talent meeting that were called by Brian, Jericho, and Mox. Tony never interrupted. He said, Cash and I never refused to show up to work. Dare I say, look at our schedules. So basically, he's saying that Jake Hager is lying. Now, I noticed that FTR, I know sometimes they get in the middle of some of these artists who come to AEW, but here's another message that was sent, you know, through the two, this Jake Hager saying, I apologize if you're upset. I think I said you was too. I definitely said definitely was, but meeting happened. But to say I think and then actually say our names make us look like a-holes and it wasn't even us. So it's just crazy, a whole disagreement here. But I don't see why Jake Hager would have any reason to lie. I understand that he didn't have the greatest time in AEW his whole time there, but let's see what else he had to say here.
And we're all just like, all feeling disrespected. And I still to this day wish I would have stood up and said, you know, a lot of things. But like, you just told Sting that you're going to put him in a 6-man in 6 minutes, but then you're going to honor him for his retirement. We became his little playthings. We had to wait outside his office. His storylines were very good at debuting, but he could never carry anything through. And it got to the point where I'm carrying on, but it got to the point where I couldn't tell him anything. He couldn't take criticism. He was fucking up, and we were all just having to deal with it. You know, like, we all had blood, sweat, and tears put into that company. We were all there at the beginning. Like, we all had our careers behind us that helped build that company. And then we all had to just sit side by side and couldn't do anything because he wanted to run it the way he wanted to run it.
Now, Jake Hager also said that Tony Khan, which I agree well, that Tony Khan started off good in AEW with storylines and building of people in the ranking system, but today in AEW, it's nothing like that anymore. There's no storylines, there's no build-up. Now, don't get me wrong, AEW has put on some great shows. They had a decent All-In this year, and I heard mixed reviews about Forbidden Door. Haven't seen it yet myself. I heard some people say it was good, some people say it wasn't, for whatever reason. And wrestling, we got to understand, it's about storytelling. Well, it don't matter what company you're in, whether you're in WWE or if it was WCW back in the day, NWA, ECW, TNA, AEW, ROH, it don't even matter. It's about storytelling. If you don't be telling stories within your wrestling shows every week, especially pay-per-views, you really can't follow the wrestlers and the characters. It's just literally putting up an exhibition type of match. 2 random people wrestle each other for one match, and that's it. And that's sometimes how I feel with AEW. But Tony Khan, I could see him getting in his way because we've heard this about other AEW wrestlers. If you don't agree with Tony Khan's booking and the way he runs his company, he sits you down on the bench. But other than that, though, that's all I have for Jake Hager and so Tony Khan and FTR. Jake Hager exposing all of AEW. You guys let me know what you think of the interview. Click the link below to the next video. Until then, guys, you already know what it is at this point. It's OUT.